Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. Hello. We have such a special episode for you today. What you are about to hear is actually a recording from inside my Inner Circle community. We've just begun a new study together of The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and we will be exploring this book, the practices held within it, and the deeper concepts and content throughout the rest of this year. And the reason why I wanted to share this episode with you here on the podcast is because I love you, and I know that so many of you are listening regularly. And you send me messages on Instagram, and you leave beautiful comments, and you rate and you review the show. And we are so, so grateful for your listening and for this deeper connection. And many of you are already inside the Finding Harmony community, where we offer bonus episodes like we did last week, which are more intimate discussions or revealings of behind the scenes or conversations that we're having with our guests. And you can head over to the Finding Harmony community and find those bonus episodes inside just for you. But if you're ready to go a little bit deeper and you want more personal guidance and interaction, then this is your opportunity, because my Inner Circle is open right now, but only until March 25th. And so listening to this podcast can be a doorway. It's starting to dip your toe into what it feels like to be held in a community where we're exploring some deeper concepts and teachings and experiences together. But what would it be like if you could be live with me while we're having these conversations, where you get to ask questions and reflect and add your own stories or reflections, or look at your practices and start to ask deeper questions about why this versus that, and begin to integrate on a deeper, higher level, which is really where the real transformation starts to happen. Not from just doing a repetitive practice again and again and again, but really starting to parse apart and look at, what is your motivation? What is the deeper why? What are these practices really pointing us to? And this is what we do, not just inside the Finding Harmony community. This is sort of our big home, but really when you commit to coming into my Inner Circle. And this is the space where you will find these conversations get taken a lot further, and we get to go deeper together and learn from one another. It's not just about me talking at you. It's about an invitation to enter into the dialogue, into the conversation, so that we can explore together, what does this really mean, and what are your reflections about the work that we're doing? On top of that, we have breath work, pranayama, meditation, chanting, and this beautiful, beautiful, powerful work, which is elemental embodiment practices, where you are really tuning into your body, your breath, and learning how to feel your own energetic field. These are, they're going to catapult you to the next level. They're so powerful. And on top of that, we explore yoga philosophy and spiritual teachings in a way that is deeply embodied, that is not just ideas for the mind or words being spoken, but they are conversations that will experientially shift how you live, how you breathe, how you're moving through the world, allowing you to integrate your practice into your life truly so they're woven together and you cannot tear them apart. You cannot separate them. They become one. And you get the chance to speak with me directly, get my input and guidance on things that you can't ask during a podcast episode where you're just listening. So alongside the Power of Now, our live interactive classes, you also have access to my full course on the Bhagavad Gita, plus an entire library of practices designed to help you regulate your nervous system, deepen your awareness, and connect to your body, mind, breath, and energy. And so really, this is the important thing that I want you to know before we jump into this offering, this special class, which is focused on chapter 1 of The Power of Now. And that is, I am closing my inner circle for the rest of this year, and it will close on March 25th. I will not be opening it up or allowing anyone in through that doorway after March 25th. So if you've been listening to this podcast for some years now and feeling a nudge, a quiet voice that says, I want to go deeper and I actually want to start to live these teachings, I want to enter this world, then this is your window to step in. Because once the doors are closed, they are going to stay closed. I have other communities and offers that are dear, dear, dear to my heart. And so there's opportunities to work with me in other ways. But this is the only time that you will be invited into this inner circle community this year. So listen all the way to the end of this episode because I'm going to share with you how you can join us and how you can take advantage of this limited time opening. And so if you're ready to move beyond trying to just understand these teachings to starting to embody them, to starting to live them and integrate them into your cells, into who you are in the world, body, mind, breath, spirit, soul, energy, all of it, your entire system will transform, then this is the moment you've been waiting for. All right, let's dive into today's episode. This book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, was first published in 1997, and it was self-published, actually. And then it was later picked up by the New World Library. And then Oprah Winfrey made Eckhart Tolle's work popular sometime in the early 2000s. And if you want to listen to the Eckhart Tolle podcast, you'll notice that it's actually Oprah who's introducing each session. And so she really, I think, is a proud sponsor of his teachings and work. I'm not sure he would have been able to pull it together enough without her coordination, which is kind of funny. And as you may have noticed, it's actually a book that was taken and compiled from a lot of his talks. So looking at different questions that were asked, he was just giving live talks after his awakening experience. And you hopefully read that in the introduction, which was lovely. He, sort of like Byron Katie, who had a very similar awakening experience arising of really like feeling like wanting to end your life and then having some sort of moment of realization that they were not their body, they were not their thoughts, and seeing how it was really the thoughts that were creating the suffering. And so that is the theme of this first chapter, You Are Not Your Mind. And so part of why this book really matters is, I think, because it gives language to what we're talking about in yoga. This idea, yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. Well, what is that, right? This channelization of the mind stuff, of the vrittis, the waves. And so what are the waves? The waves are the thoughts, the mental, emotional conditions, the patterns, the disruptions, the attachments, right? But what are all of those things? They're likes and dislikes, and that's really a judgment and a thought, or getting attached to a certain feeling. And so the vrittis are the waves. And what are these waves? These waves create a rough ride, right? And so we're trying to create smooth sailing. And so to create that smooth sailing, we need a calm water, right? We need clarity and calmness, and not the vrittis, the fluctuations, the waves, the whirlpools. And so this book is really paralleling that, in that the mind is the vrittis. The mind is creating the suffering, and our attachment to our thoughts creates the suffering. And our attachment to time, right? That time, we're not really ever living in the now. We're constantly living, and if you follow Joe Dispenza's work, he talks about this a lot too. But this is like such a foundational work to everything that these conscious leaders are talking about today, like Joe Dispenza, right? That we're living out of our past and creating a predictable future. How does that pattern happen? That pattern happens because of our thoughts, because of our mind, because we're not opening into that field of awareness, into the now. Because when you're now and in the present moment, there's no suffering. That suffering exists in that psychological time, in living in a memory or in an idea about the way things should be based on how they were in the past, and then creating a predictable future or anticipating what the future will be like. Both those states are not in the present. And you can't create something new in either of those states. You can only create something new in the present moment. And so that was one of my reasons for wanting to go through this book with you, is because for me, this book was, I read it in 2003, and it was really like foundational to understanding meditation, to understanding the condition of our human experience. And it really ties together the teachings of the Yoga Sutras, as well as the Bhagavad Gita, in a really beautiful way. It really bridges these non-dual teachings with sort of modern psychology, and in a language that hopefully isn't too hard to follow, although it is quite deep and intense. I actually was listening, I was reading it again. I got all the way to chapter 7. But I was reading it and listening to the audio at the same time, because I was like, okay, this is dense. I'm not sure I have the bandwidth to really focus on it. And so if you really want to go deep into it, you can do that. And you can pause it and, okay, I'm just going to pause here. So that's one way to kind of, especially because it is fairly philosophical. I mean, it is quite dense in certain ways. It's one of those books you have to go through slowly and maybe read things a couple of times, because the teachings are they're simple, but the mind wants to complicate it and things need to land. So I want to pull out a couple of things that I've sort of underlined here and relate it to what we've learned about in yoga. So those who have found their true wealth, which is the radiant joy of being and the deep, unshakable peace that comes with it, are beggars, even, or those who have not found this, right? So that's what the true wealth is this radiant joy of being. And this is what the Yoga Sutras also talk about, right? When we look at the koshas, we have our annamaya kosha, our physical body, the pranamaya kosha, our etheric body or our energy body, the manomaya kosha, the mental field, the emotional field, the vijnanamaya kosha, the higher mind, And then the Anandamaya kosha, the body of bliss, peace, unshakable joy. And he says, those who have not found this, have not found their true wealth, their true self, which is the radiant joy of being, then they are looking for scraps of pleasure or fulfillment, for validation or security or love. Well, they have a treasure within that not only includes all of these things, but is infinitely greater than anything the world can offer. And so what I also love about this book is I think in yoga, oftentimes enlightenment ends up being a goal. We put it as something outside of ourselves, that we need to do all these things in order to attain some state. Would you agree? Like we feel like we're climbing the 8 limbs of yoga to reach samadhi, to have an enlightenment experience. Then we have to do all this asana, all this pranayama. We have to do all these things. And maybe we'll get there in this lifetime, but probably not. We'll have to wait till next lifetime, right? And that's all outside. It's all something that isn't here inside. But the true teachings of yoga, this is just a trick that our mind plays on us. It's also a trick that sometimes teachers create inadvertently who haven't had the true experience. It's also a great marketing plan because people have to keep coming back and buying more and practicing more and doing more. Okay, so there's that aspect too now. But the idea is like, so he says the word enlightenment conjures up the idea of some superhuman accomplishment. And I think that that's true. That's what we think. Oh, I'll never be Buddha. I'll never be Christ. That's a superhuman consciousness, right? A superhuman accomplishment. And the way he defines ego is very interesting also, right? Like this small self or this ego likes to keep it that way because then it keeps us on this hamster wheel or on this treadmill of needing to achieve and accomplish and strive. And that's what our ego is always trying to do. It's trying to make us better and keep us safe. Be better, be safe. Be better, be safe. And that's kind of where we fluctuate, right? And that's where the suffering happens also, because we're never good enough. And we're also not actually really ever safe until you in-source safety. And so he says, but actually, this enlightenment is simply your natural state of felt oneness with being. It's not something outside of you. It's who you are. It is your natural state, your most natural state, without ego, without mind. It is essentially you. It is a state of connectedness with something immeasurable and indestructible that is both much greater than you, but also essentially you, beyond name, beyond form. And it's when we're perceiving ourselves in isolation, as isolated, as alone, as fragmented, as cut off from the whole, that fear arises, conflict arises, and we suffer. And when you look at the suffering of the world at large, it's just a mirror of our own states and our own dysfunction or function, depending on which perspective you want to look at it. But when we feel cut off from the whole, which is indestructible, infinite, immeasurable, then we feel alone, separate. We start to fear. We feel not safe. We feel not connected, not provided for. We feel like I have to do it all myself. Brings up that pattern. We feel like if I don't work hard, nothing will happen. And then it also brings up, it creates that dualism, right? Me against the world. This is I, this is you, this is yours. That dualism, that separation only exists when we feel separate. And I mean, it's a deep, deep, deep pattern, so it's going to show up all the time. But when we feel connected, when we feel unified, that starts to weaken, it starts to dissolve. You can even think of it in your most intimate relationships. When you think of like, oh, we're a partnership, how do you feel about your relationships? We're doing this together. We're in this together. We're like operating as one thing. You start to feel like, oh, okay, yeah, things are okay. We're all doing our part, right? When you think of your relationship as you and another person, and now we're in a relationship as two separate people, right? There's friction because now I'm doing more, you're not doing enough, or you're doing too much and I'm feeling guilty, I'm not doing enough. Does it make sense? And that's the same thing that happens in our world. If, like, globally, holistically, we're seeing ourselves as humanity, and not just humanity, but like as part of the earth, how does that change how we live? How does it change how we relate? If you meet your neighbor, and instead of your neighbor being that person who lives over there, being, oh, that's part of me living over there, we're a we, and we're actually just manifestations of this earth. How does that change how you interact with people? How does it change, like, politics and conflict? All of that arises because there's borders, because there's this is mine, this is yours, and we're not together in this. The more together we can create between people, between countries, between ourselves, in ourselves, the less conflict and suffering there will be. And so that's why, well, that's part of why I love this book. You know? One question that is interesting, he says, I love Buddha's simple definition of enlightenment as the end of suffering. There's nothing superhuman in that, is there? Of course, as a definition, it's incomplete. It only tells you what enlightenment is not, no suffering. But what is left when there is no more suffering, right? What's left? Like, we're so addicted to suffering. What would you do if you weren't suffering? What would you do, Tammy?
I just feel like sometimes I look at, I don't know, the world and I think this is the problem sometimes is maybe in certain ways we have created less suffering because, there's medicines, you can live longer, all these like things that make life more accommodating. But yet, because we've done that, now we have to make it even, we have to suffer more and we have to put more suffering on top of that so that I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Ah, no, I think you're right. As ease increases, also we create situations so that we're suffering. Why? Because we're living in duality. Because we think, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not good enough. Oh, this person's better. I need to catch up. Oh, I feel guilty because I'm letting myself relax. Right? Like, these are all in relation to, right? But if there was no more suffering, what's left? Just ease. Like, can you let it be easy? Can you allow yourself to rest in being? Your nature, your natural state is felt oneness with being, with immeasurable, indestructible joy. It's always present because it's who you are. And it's not just this book saying that. That's what yoga is about. That's what yoga says. Anatman, or Atman, and Parama Atman, right? Brahman, Atman, they're the same. What's Brahman? Pure consciousness, indestructible joy, peace, love. You are that. Everything in yoga keeps saying, you are that. Yeah, Britta.
Those are glimpses, but I was thinking, because I tried to list up when I might be in the now, in the present.
Mm-hmm.
And first I thought like together with children.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remembered, I recall, because I became a mother in a young age,
Mm-hmm.
where before I became a mother was totally suffering, like identity, or very much so. But when my daughter came, it was such a relief because, first of all, just because like she drew me totally into the present because of her needs and stuff. But also when she grew up a little bit and was playing and, well, being, then it was so clear that her natural time being was not in like the future or in the past. It was totally in now. And like we were talking about the taste of not suffering, it was so much gratitude because both of the relief of not feeling so much of myself, the total relief of like be present in her life, and also like it was being in that realm of time together. It was, but I mean, it was very momentarily. I mean, it's not like, oh, so now I fixed it, but the taste of it.
Yeah.
And also I can still feel like being with children, it has a quality of that, especially young children. But
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I love that sharing. And I think you're right. And I think there's something to, especially if you let yourself really be with them too. They don't have such a strong pattern. I mean, what past are they drawing on? Like, what future are they creating? They're not, right? They're just here now. And so if you let yourself be there, we, of course, get drawn into that field of presence because they're always present until a certain age. Yeah. And so it is I think that's also like part of, why becoming a parent is like a beautiful part of spiritual practice because it does give you yoga. You understand exactly that. Like, oh, if you allow yourself to, the more we resist letting ourselves just be in that moment, the more we're resisting the moment, of course, the more we're going to suffer. But it sounds like you really allowed yourself to be in the moment. And that was freeing because it let you come into that presence, which is really lovely. Yeah. So that was one thing. Another thing that I think is so beautiful about this book is because, in the Yoga Sutras also, we talk about Satudirga Kala Nairantaya Sakkara Sevito Drutta Bhumihi, right? Practice for a long, long time with devotion, without stopping. What kind of practice is the Yoga Sutras talking about?
Staying conscious.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's talking about being here in this present moment now. And that happens all the time, whatever you're doing, right? Whether you're driving or practicing asana or making food for your kids or for yourself or whatever you're doing at work, anything. It's like, are you here now?
I just wanted to share a funny story.
Yeah.
I had some friends come to visit from Texas recently, 2 weeks
Mhm.
ago, and it was really interesting how much this man could not be in the present moment. We are on an island in the middle of the Pacific. It's a Latin American country. And yes, you have to throw the toilet paper in the trash can. Okay, not the most like exciting thing and wonderful thing, but it just needs to be done. But it's just so interesting. And then sometimes the power goes out across the whole island. So he wanted a beer so badly and just went around and he's like, all the restaurants were closed because there was no power. I'm like, I don't know. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Just this is where you're at. This is what it is. And you become so comfortable with living in a country where you have electricity all the time, where you have fresh water all the time, where you have, I don't know. Anyways, come and live somewhere else. It will be great for your ego.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's also like when we put things outside of ourselves to create a state of wholeness, like I'll only be whole when I get the beer. Then I'll be satisfied. Then I'll be content. Then I'll be complete. So, of course, if wholeness is out there in something outside of yourself, of course you're going to suffer until you get it rather than it's here inside, right? And how often do we do that? We do that with so many things. All day long, we're doing that. Oh, I'll feel complete when this day is over. Like right from waking up in the morning. Like, okay, next time I'm lying down, I'm going to feel so good. Like we're always living into the future, putting our happiness or our sense of well-being at some future point. And our mind is constantly creating this sense of time and separation, right?
I've been really practicing staying conscious this last couple of weeks. I think from the Joe Dispenza video you shared before,
Yeah.
and got me out of bed every morning. It was great on time. But I have a 13-year-old boy who's full of testosterone.
Oh,
So you can imagine the "I'm right" statements constantly. So when I'm staying conscious with him, I had written down about what Eckhart said on page 10. Thankfully, I have read this book before.
I know,
'Cause
right?
I only realized yesterday we were meeting today. I was like, oh shit. But page 10, it says, the inability to feel connectedness gives rise to the illusion of separation. But the last part of that paragraph, fear arises and conflict within and without becomes the norm, which is immediately what happens whenever you're engaging with your 13-year-old son. It's just, yeah. And now I just have to go, no, stop. What is he saying? Just focus on what is he saying. And it's just removed so much stress. So much. I've had so much more energy and so much more positivity throughout my day, and I apply it to the laundry as well. So, but yeah, it really does work.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. I love that. And yes, I can relate. Never ending battle of I'm right, you're wrong. Okay. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So some other things I think are really interesting is just like watching the thinker. So the whole practice, especially as he's talking about in this first chapter, he says the beginning of freedom is the realization that you are not the possessing entity, the thinker. Knowing this enables you to observe the entity. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. Then you begin to realize there's a vast realm of intelligence beyond thought, that the thought is only a tiny aspect of that intelligence. You also realize that all the things that truly matter, beauty, love, creativity, joy, inner peace, arise from beyond the mind. And it's so interesting. My teacher, Sri Opitawari, would always say this. He would say, the problem is not in the mind. The problem is mind itself. You have to go beyond the mind. He would say that all the time. And it's right here. You have to go beyond the mind. Why? Because creativity, beauty, love, where does love exist? It's not a thought, right? Where does beauty exist? Again, it's not a thought. Where does creativity come from? It's not a thought. I mean, it might get channeled into thoughts, but it arises outside of that field of the mind stuff. And so as we start to see the mind, start to see the thoughts, we can take that step into the seer, which is what the Yoga Sutra is also talking about, right? Tadadrastu swarupe avastanam. When the seer sits in its own true seat or its own true self, then it's unified. It's not identified with the vrittis, with the thinking. But every other time the seer isn't in its true seat or its true self, then it's identified with the thinking, with the vrittis. And so it's exactly that practice that you were just saying, Celine, is continue to come back. Like whenever you catch yourself, especially like this is such a good practice because it happens so frequently that we're suffering in some way throughout the day. Like we're being persecuted, like, oh, the laundry. Oh, like, oh, I got to fold these clothes. Oh, I got to clean the house. Oh, I got to, right? Like all day long, we're being persecuted. We're suffering. Oh, I got to get out of bed. I know. I mean, it's just being human. And so then the more you can catch yourself in that moment of the suffering where you're like, not again. Oh, we got to go grocery shopping today. Oh, right? Like that little moment of suffering, you can catch it and be like, oh, that's the thought. Oh, okay. And you just start to like go back into seeing the thought and like being embodied and be like, oh, that's just a thought. And now all of a sudden there's a space, right, between you and the thought. And the more you can start to see the thoughts as not you, they're just thoughts. Just like everything, like this tarot card deck, like anything that you, just like this book isn't you. It's outside of you, right? Thoughts are the same. And when we look at the philosophy of Sankhya, right? Everything is prakriti. What is prakriti? Material elements, including everything in chitta, right? Ahankara, our ego, manas, all of the mind and the thoughts, including the higher mind even. All of these things are not our true selves. They're all the things outside of ourselves. And so the more we can start seeing the thoughts as outside, then the more we can start to reside in the seat of the seer and find that sense of contentment, wholeness, love, beauty beyond the mind. We start to wake up beyond identifying with the mind. Rita, it's called The Secret Power of Yoga, I think, this translation by Nishtila Devi of the Yoga Sutras. It's The Secret Power of Yoga, right? It's lovely. If you want a feminist perspective of the Yoga Sutras, yeah, definitely one to read. Yeah, The Secret Power of Yoga. It's so, so good. And so we start to learn to watch the thinker. And when you listen to the thought or you see the thought, right? Depends. Some people kind of feel it like a seeing it. Some people feel it like a hearing it. Some people might see it like more like a visualization. One thing that's interesting too is feeling into the vibration of the thought, because all thoughts carry a vibration to them. So like, what does that thought feel like? What's the felt sense of having that thought? That can also be an interesting experiment to play with this week. But once you start to watch the thinker or see the thoughts, try and do it impartially. So don't judge the thought because that's just another thought. Just start to see it. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Like there's laundry and it will get done at some point, somehow. Oh, groceries. Oh, right. You start to question it, see it, look at it impartially, watch it. Don't judge it. Don't condemn it. But just start to recognize there's this voice and I'm listening to it. I'm watching it. I'm seeing it. Then you're in that place of the I am and you're starting to reside beyond the thoughts because now you're starting to see them. And there's so many of them. Okay. So you might not see all of them all the time, but it's just starting to cultivate that pattern, that habit, that practice of letting yourself step back and notice when your mind is creating your own suffering. Because nothing outside of you is creating the suffering. It's just your thoughts about it. The laundry isn't creating suffering. It's just there. Yeah, it's there. If you leave it long enough, probably someone else will do it, you know. Or you just wear dirty clothes. Also possible. I mean, it's not creating suffering. It's just there. It's our thoughts about it that create the suffering. Just like you were saying with your son, he's not creating any suffering in your relationship. He's just being who he is at this moment in time, right? It's your thoughts about what he's saying, what he's doing, how he's acting that creates your suffering. And that's all you're responsible for. So it's like, it's really powerful just to start to come back into that present moment because only in the present moment can we have the realization. Only here in this moment right now, because the moment keeps moving in a weird way. And also it's not moving at all, right? But only in the present moment, which is always right here, right now, can we awaken. Can we touch enlightenment? Can we touch freedom? The present moment is the key to your liberation. And when is the present moment? Now. 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 It's not tomorrow. It's not later today. There's only one moment, and it's right now. And so if you want to get free, you got to do it now. That's it. And once we start to understand that, you start to realize there's nothing you need to do to create the conditions to awaken. You just have to start to become so present. It happens naturally. It happens automatically because it is your natural state. It's who you are. You don't create enlightenment. You don't make enlightenment. You don't work hard for enlightenment. You are already that. There's one saying in yoga that yoga is about taking and removing all of the things that prevent us from seeing, right? Avidya. What is avidya? Avidya is that deep confusion, that misperception, that misidentification, the ground of illusion, Maya. It's all saying the same thing. We're trapped in it. We're constantly misidentifying. What are we mostly misidentifying with? Our thoughts. When we start to see the truth, we start to go beyond the mind. We start to come into the seer, to the self. We start to realize who we are, which isn't the thinker. That's some other entity. It's the one who sees. So hopefully that's good. Yes, Tamara.
There was a part in there that I really
Yeah.
enjoyed, and I wanted you to kind of expound on it, if you could.
Mhm.
It was the part that's about, I don't know what page it was because I was listening, is if you really want to know your mind, the body will always give you a truthful reflection. So look at the emotion or feel it in your body. And if there's a conflict between the thought and the feeling, the thought will be the lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something.
I think it's this part here.
Yeah.
Emotion
And
arises as the place where the mind and body meet. It's the body's reaction to your mind, or you might say a reflection of your mind in the body. The more you are identified with your thinking, your likes, your dislikes, your judgments, and interpretations, which is to say less present, you are as the watching consciousness, the stronger the emotional energy charge will be, whether you are aware of it or not. So the more you're identified with your thinking, the more of an emotional reaction you're going to have. If you cannot feel your emotions, then if you are cut off from them, you will eventually experience them on a purely physical level as a physical problem or symptom. A strong unconscious emotional pattern may manifest as an external event that appears to just happen to you. For example, I've observed people who carry a lot of anger inside without being aware of it and without expressing it are more likely to be attacked verbally or even physically by other angry people, and often for no apparent reason. They have a strong emanation of anger that certain people pick up on subliminally that triggers their own suppressed or latent anger. So if you have difficulty feeling your emotions, start by focusing attention on the inner energy field of your body. Feel the body from within, which will help to put you in touch with your emotions. So start to go in and just feel sensation and stay with it. To me, that's the best way to feel emotions, is especially if you have pain or a strong sensation in your body, is to just go and be and sit with that sensation and keep exploring it and just keep the mind there in the sensation and just notice what's present. What's its vibration? What's its sense? What's its feeling? What is it saying? What does it remind you of? Where does it take you back to in your life? What's the first time you remember having that sensation? What was going on? What was the emotional quality that you couldn't express at that time? So all of these emotions live in our body, show up as physical pain. But yeah, so follow the emotions, because the stronger the emotion, the stronger your attachment or identification to the thought. 2021. Yeah, that's page 2021. So when we're feeling let's pick something silly like the weather. I don't want it to be minus 20 today. The more I'm attached to it not being that, the more I'm going to have an emotional experience. I'm going to feel depressed or sad or angry, right? So I'm very attached to things being different, to the thought that they should be different. The more I'm accepting of the present moment, which is that it's minus 20, I'm just like, okay, it's minus 20. I'm accepting reality as it is and not having thoughts or judgments about it. The more at peace I am, the less emotional response I'm going to have to the weather in this example. But we do this with everything. So yeah, I think that was a great key to bring up, because that's the one thing that I think in yoga we kind of lack a little bit, is talking about the role of the emotions in our liberation. And they're so essential. They're such a key to awakening. And I think oftentimes in yoga, we're taught to bypass our emotions or suppress them rather than feel them and go into them. And it's so important to feel them and go into them, because emotions is energy. And as he's saying, it's very much related to the mind and the body. It's how we're storing our mental field in our body. It's through our emotional kind of field it goes through. So feeling the emotions, being with the emotions, not suppressing, not learning how to bypass, because that's also just another form of suppressing. You see this in the Ashtanga community a lot, like all these teachers learning to bypass and suppress their emotions. And then it comes out in crazy ways of like all this stupid infighting about ridiculous things. And it's like, why? But it's like so much suppression. It's like, just feel your shit and like start to be with all of the past childhood experiences you're trying to bypass, and you won't give a shit about all of this stuff that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, but you're coming up so emotional to it because you've trained yourself to suppress so successfully, So it's a very interesting situation in the yoga world sometimes. And it really needs this integration of where's the emotional body? And the emotional body is really like kind of tied into this attachment to past experiences or attachment to our thoughts. So I think it's a important part that we need to feel and focus on a little bit. And it's a key, right? It's a key to where's our attachment? What thoughts are we really putting weight to or giving more weight to? Thank you for bringing that up. Anything else from this chapter? There's so much. We could just talk about this chapter for like months and months and months. But if you haven't read it, you can go back and read it again. I wrote many, many things. There's something else about emotions that I think is nice. He says, basically, all emotions are modifications of one primordial, undifferentiated emotion that has its origin in the loss of awareness of who you are beyond name and form. So all emotions are just modifications of the loss of awareness of who you are, right? The sense of separation from the truth of self or from who you truly are. Because of its undifferentiated nature, it is hard to find a name that precisely describes this emotion, the primordial emotion, but fear is probably the name that comes the closest. But apart from a continuous sense of threat, it also includes a deep sense of abandonment and incompleteness. And when you really go to the core of where people are sort of storing these emotional patterns, there's three things that every human seeks. A sense of safety, which is what he's saying, that when we're separate from ourself, right, separate from awareness, from the seer, from who we truly are, we feel constantly under threat. So needing safety, right? So we're always looking to defend ourselves, to create safety. Also, a sense of belonging, right? Which is really wanting this completeness, to feel whole and complete and integrated. And then the other one is safety, belonging, and love. Love is kind of belonging. There's another one. Safety, belonging, and enoughness, I guess, would be the thing. Yeah, like not alone. I guess not alone is like belonging to, but enoughness maybe is more like incomplete. feeling incomplete, but feeling enoughness, feeling like a sense of self-worth, self-love, wholeness, worthiness, abandonment. It could also tie into belonging. And all of these things, this fear, sense of not enoughness, or the sense of unlovability or abandonment are all just like kind of the 3 root baskets of pain that all come from this primordial, undifferentiated emotion that's hard to put a name to, that is feeling separate from who we truly are. And then he says, in fact, the harder the mind struggles to get rid of the pain, the greater the pain. The mind can never find a solution, nor can it afford to allow you to find the solution, because it is itself an intrinsic part of the problem. Mind itself is the problem. But when we create that gap between the thoughts, that's when we have those moments of deep peace, of love, of joy. And here's one more thing about emotions that I think is really important. So you need to become fully conscious of your emotions and be able to feel them before you can feel that which lies beyond them. Emotion literally means disturbance. The word comes from the Latin emovere, meaning to disturb. Love, joy, peace are deep states of being, or rather 3 aspects of this state of interconnectedness with being. As such, they have no opposite. This is because they arise from beyond the mind. Emotions, on the other hand, being part of the dualistic mind, are subject to the laws of opposites, which means you cannot have good without bad. So you're constantly stuck in that cycle of alternating between pleasure and pain, right? Happy, sad, like, dislike, good, bad, wrong. But there's something beautiful there in that we have to actually start to feel the emotions before you can move through them, before you can go beyond them. Okay, any last reflections? I know we went over today, but it's such a rich conversation. So your homework for this month, I'm going to give you homework, is to watch your thoughts. So just like pause every now and then and watch, what is my mind doing now? And you can take note even. If you want to really track it, you could write it down. Is it planning? Is it remembering? Is it judging? Is it labeling? Is it fighting? Notice what the emotional content is of that as well. And then see if you can just start to create a gap. Just start to see it and see what happens. You can also question it. Is this thought creating pain or peace? So it depends how deep you want to take the practice. One interesting thing is, especially if there's strong thoughts or strong emotions coming up, is really noticing what is, sometimes maybe you experience the emotion before the thought. It's okay, well, what's the thought that's tied to the emotion? Just start to look at that connection between the emotions and the thoughts. If you're feeling irritated or you're feeling rushed or stressed, it's what's the thought that's tied to this feeling? And then you can kind of start to see it. You could start to question it. Is it true? Is that thought true? Is it creating a sense of freedom or a sense of identification or suffering? And just start to see what changes over this next month. And you don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to change it, actually. You just have to see it, because awareness is the key. As soon as you see it, it will start to change, because as soon as you turn the light on it, it starts to change. You don't need to do anything with it. It's just seeing it. Oh, I'm having this thought that there's so much to do today. Okay, that's a thought. That's all you have to do. As soon as you notice, oh, there's the thought, I have so much to do today. Okay, I can take a deep breath. Just realize that that's a thought. It's not true. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not true. Maybe it's just a thought, right? Does that thought cause suffering, or does it cause a sense of freedom or peace? What if I change the thought? What if instead of thinking I have so much to do today, it's just, I'm going to be accomplishing a lot today? Or everything's going to happen in the time that it needs to happen, or everything happens in its own time. There's no need to rush, right? How does it help to shift the thought? What's a different thought I could think? How could I replace this with a new thought? Just start to see it and play with it.
I have a great example of that from this week.
Yeah.
And it's a sick house, and my daughter thought had the flu or something. And then I was coming back from meetings and the day off, and then I got a tooth infection. And then, and I had to go and have my tooth pulled. And then I had to take her to the dentist or the doctor's the next day. And it turns out now she has tonsillitis. And this is all when I thought I had 3 days off. And then they were off on school break as well, But I completely turned it around and like, oh my God, immediately she got medication that made her feel better. Immediately I could go to the dentist and he could pull my tooth and I'm no longer in pain. We're blessed to live in a country where immediately we have all of these things, as opposed to the poor people who do not have any pain relief.
Yeah.
Or access to it. So yeah, it was just changing the whole thought processes.
Yeah, which is beautiful. And that also comes to another Yoga Sutra verse, right? Vitarka padane pratipaksha bhavanam. When you have a negative thought, think the opposite. And so it doesn't mean just thinking the exact opposite, but it's like, how can I reframe this? How could I put this another way? Instead of like, oh, I had 3 days off and it's so terrible, all these bad things are happening. It's like, oh, isn't it lovely? I had 3 days off to take care of all these things. Or instead of like, oh, all these terrible things are happening. Yeah. Oh, aren't we so blessed to live in a place where we can get immediate care and treatments? Right? Like, how can you change the thought? So instead of creating more suffering, you're starting to live in freedom and recognize that it's just a thought. It's just a choice. And you can choose what you think because your thoughts are not you, right? The thoughts are here, just like the book. You can choose what books you want to read. They're not you. I love that. Okay. Everyone clear on what their homework assignment is? We'll carry on the discussion next month with chapter 2. Consciousness is the way out of pain. So, of course, all of these themes will carry on through the whole book because it's like the foundation and it carries on. All right, let's chant Om and we will end. Ooh. Hey, before you go, I want to leave you with the secret key on how to unlock the door and come on into my inner circle. So if you felt your awareness shift even just a little, imagine what it would be like to explore these teachings in a space where you can actually practice, reflect, and integrate them in real time, where you can experience pranayama, meditation, embodiment practices, as well as learning Sanskrit mantra, chanting. This is where you can work with me each month live. And this is inside my inner circle. And so we have just started The Power of Now. We're going to be studying it all year long. And each of my classes, whether it's live breath work, pranayama, meditation, chanting, or elemental embodiment, is here to help you bring these insights into your lived experience and to take the practices that you've been doing over and over and over again to a deeper level, to a higher understanding. So if you feel called, I'm closing my inner circle March 25th. So you need to take that key and unlock the door now. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, this is your invitation. This is your year. Now is the time. Head into the Finding Harmony community. There is a link for free access here in the show notes. You can also send me a DM on Instagram. Just put community. I will send you the link personally. Once you are inside the Finding Harmony community, you're going to scroll down on the left side of the community and look at where it says Inner Circle Membership. And there are 2 options here. You can have a monthly subscription. It's only $33. Or you can sign up for the full year at $333. It is a very, very accessible membership. It is the last time I'm going to be offering it at this price. And I'm also closing it for the entire year starting March 25th. So if you're feeling called and you want to come in and study with me, learn from me, but also be in a space held by a beautiful community of soul-centered humans who are really interested in doing the deeper work and having these deeper conversations in real time, where you are invited and welcome to share that inner wisdom that is in you. You hold so many answers that you don't even know. And I want you to help realize and see and invite you to express them, to look at them, to pull them out, and to see what wisdom you hold within you. This is it. This is your opportunity. So I will drop those links in the show notes. And if it's resonating with you, if you have any questions, just reach out to me on Instagram, send me a message, and be sure that you jump in before March 25th, because that's your last chance. So if you love this episode, if you love our podcast, one more thing you can do that really, really, really helps. It makes a big difference. It helps us to get better guests. It helps us to broaden our audience, which is to leave a review, tell a friend, post an episode that you love on Instagram in your stories. I always repost them. So help these conversations reach more people, because they're so valuable and they're so deep. And if you've been here with us for the last 6 years, then I think you love it, and we love you. And we're just so grateful for you being here. And we want more beautiful humans who are like you, who are in your world that don't know about us, to come into our world and start expanding their minds and their lives and their embodiment and their being, their consciousness that's here in their body in this lifetime, to start opening up this power that they hold, so that we can all start uplifting the world, shining that light, being the love, being the change, holding the vision for a greater embodiment of humanity and consciousness on this planet. So that's what this podcast is about. That's what we're doing. And if you want to be a part of it, this is your invitation to come be a part of it. It can be in a small way, sharing these episodes with others, telling people about the podcast, sharing it on social media, leaving a comment, leaving a review, rating and reviewing, giving us top reviews. We love you. We love that. Or coming into my inner circle, entering the Finding Harmony community, and working with me in real time with a beautiful, very intimate, loving, welcoming group of humans. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate you and are so excited for the work that you're doing in the world and for your mission here in this lifetime, in this embodiment, in this incarnation. So thank you. Thank you for making us a part of your journey. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen, so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.